Qed tismawni? Okay, Steve? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, mela. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being with us for another webinar. I want to start my introduction today by saluting a pioneer, a talented photographer, a teacher, a leader, Mr. Kevin Asa, outgoing president of the Malta Institute of Professional Photographers. A career now spanning over 40 years in photography, Kevin Asa is a highly awarded Maltese photographic artist and tutor. He has been past president of the Malta Photographic Society and current chairman and founder of the Malta Institute of Professional Photography. To date, he is the only person to have been awarded honorary life membership of both top local photographic organizations for his contribution towards photography. Locally, he has lectured on academic courses at the Institute of Arts and Design, University of Malta, Heritage Malta, schools, and other private entities, and is course director for the MIPP. His photography has been widely published with no fewer than 17 books, fully illustrated with his images. Asa has staged numerous one-man exhibitions in Malta, as well as in Italy, London, Corsica, United States, and Sicily. He regularly acts as curator on various collective photography exhibitions, projects, and publications. Asa's standing in the international scene was further attested when in 2015 he was chosen not only as a main judge for the Royal Highness the Prince of Wales Commonwealth Environment Photography Award, but also as curator for the exhibitions held in Malta and appointed picture editor for the Out of the Blue book, published specifically for the occasion and launched during the Chogam events in Malta. Kevin Asa has collaborated with APS Bank on the 2015 exhibition called The Calm Before the Storm and three projects entitled Vanishing Malta, Benefits of Art and Diversity. In all projects, he was curator and editor of the publication complementing these exhibitions. Furthermore, in the same year, in 2015, he was honored by being appointed Ambassador of Photography in Inner Mongolia, China. Asa has years of experience in teaching photography both locally and abroad. He is also a much sought after judge in photographic science and competitions. He has conducted workshops in various countries such as England, Ireland, Lithuania, Kuwait, and Italy. Kevin Asa, who is the technical coordinator of the National Picture Archive at the Rabat National Archive, is also Malta's foremost researcher on vintage local photography and photographers. His most important publication to date is The History of Maltese Photography and Its Protagonists, a monumental academic book recording the history of local photography from its inception in 1840 up to the dawn of digital technology. With this publication, Kevin gained the Fellowship in Research of the Royal Photographic Society in 2020. Decorated with such a rich tapestry of achievements, I personally wish to thank Mr. Kevin Asa for uplifting the art of photography throughout these years of service, and also wish him all the luck for what he decides to do in future. With MIPP, he leaves behind a great legacy, which will now be in the good hands of an equally talented and capable leader, Dr. Charles Paul Atsapardi, who will be taking over from Kevin. I am sure Charles will continue what Kevin started years ago, and I wish him all the very best in his new role as the new president of the Malta Institute of Professional Photographers. On a different note, I would like to remind you that the next photo shoot by ETM Malta and Gozo, managed by Patrick Dallas and Antonella Spiteri, will take place next Sunday, 20th in June in Gozo, with the theme Street Photography Involving Models. Another shoot is planned on Sunday, 11th July. More details regarding theme, time, and location will be announced closer to the date. Coming to our feature presentation, our webinar this week targets mainly those who love landscape and astrophotography. Sam Scicluna, a friend of us, and the Malta Photographic Society kindly accepted for a second time to be our guest speaker and share with us his experience in the field of photography. Sam Scicluna was born and raised on the island of Malta, where his love for beautiful seascapes began. He always enjoyed being outdoors and surrounded by nature. Growing up on an island has meant that he always had a special bond with the sea. This led to seascapes being a natural comfort zone and starting point in his photography. In 2012, he bought his first DSLR camera and soon fell in love with photography. In 2014, Sam went on an expedition to climb Mount Etna and later that year also climbed Monte Rosa. Spending time in the mountains is what sparked his passion for landscape photography. Since there are no mountains in Malta, he found himself longing to travel more and more to see ethereal vistas and majestic mountains. In 2016, Scicluna travels to Iceland for the first time, realizing a dream and further affirming his passion for landscape photography. He has since returned to Iceland three times. Sam's pursuit for altitude and mountain scenery has also led him to the Dolomites in Italy and Snowdonia National Park in Wales. He was always intrigued and fascinated by severe weather and the sheer power of Mother Nature, which may weigh for him to take particular interest in storm chasing and photographing severe weather. Amazed by the night sky and going camping often, led Sam to experiment with astrophotography and shooting the night sky. He loves outdoor activities like camping, hiking, climbing, scrambling, and just exploring new places in general. The type of photography that Sam enjoys all brings him closer to nature to help him appreciate the world around him. A couple of thanks as usual. Thank you to Stephen Buhajar for his support to help me put up these webinars. Joseph Mifsud, our technical guru, for streaming our webinars live on the MPS Facebook page. The Malta Photographic Society Executive Committee for their ongoing support, and the Facebook groups for supporting us by promoting our webinars on their pages, namely in surname order, Azzopardi Tony from Fotografia Bejn il Kutajja Alexander from Photography Shots, Debono Johan from All Photography. I will now hand over the word to the President of the Malta Photographic Society, Mr. Stephen Buhajar, to share with us some brief news regarding the Malta Photographic Society. Over to you, Stephen.
Thanks, Vince. Good evening, fellow members of the Malta Photographic Society. Hope everyone is fine. Now that the lifestyle is slowly getting back to normality, I hope that sooner than later we'll start to meet in person and this visual socialization will be an incident of the past. Good evening, Sam, and thanks for accepting our invitation to share with us your expertise in landscape photography, a niche which many of us explore and look forward to master. What I admire about Samuel is that he's a self-taught photographer who spends a lot of time experimenting, observing light, and interacts with the landscape to ensure he gets the best of it in his images. Those who don't know Samuel, let me tell you that he's a huge advocate for protecting nature and the environment, from sustainable living at home to doing cleanups locally and ensuring he doesn't leave any trace when he visits and shoots a particular location. The popularity of landscape photography is growing exponentially, especially in the last few years, with many photographers opting to shoot landscapes. There are a lot more people going out to capture landscape images and create awe-inspiring works of art. But it's important that we don't forget how fragile nature and the environment is. For those who wish to explore and move a step ahead in landscape photography, I recommend that one browses through Samuel's website and opt for one of his workshops to get a first-hand experience with a pro in the field. The Executive Committee of the Malta Photographic Society joins Vince's acknowledgements and would like to congratulate Dr. Charles Corazzo Pardi for his new role as the President of the MIPP and pledge cooperation between the two associations to continue working towards the benefit of the local photographic community. We take the opportunity to thank Mr. Kevin Asa for his long service and contribution towards the local photographic scene and wish him many more years during which he can pursue his favorite pastimes, especially to continue to regale the photographic community with his photography and publications. Today, on our website, we are launching the terms and conditions for the 56th National Competition and Exhibition of Photography 2021, exactly 100 days before the closing date of one's submission. This yearly event, the only one of its kind in Malta, attracts a large number of photographic enthusiasts who present their best works of the year to compete for the Society's awards and subsequently see their accepted works exhibited in a prestigious exhibition, which for this year is scheduled to be held again at Palazzo della Sal between the 9th of December and 7th January. Since its first edition held way back in 1965, this competition and exhibition eventually became an important annual event, not just for the Society's members, but also for keen photographers, since this was and still is open to the general local public. It has now become an important showcase of local photographic talent. We invite everyone to visit our website and read thoroughly the terms and conditions. Invite your friends and other photographic enthusiasts to participate. Your encouragement is the best publicity. One of the main changes you will find in this year's edition is the submission of the digital projected images, where one can opt to upload his images and pay online. To avoid errors in names, titles, and email addresses, each participant needs to submit his or her application form digitally online. I will give more information about the National Competition and Exhibition of Photography in the coming weeks. Meanwhile, read the terms and conditions, and if you have any query, send us an email. Today, we sent the link to access the live streaming of the Saturday stay-at-home judging session. We are pleased to announce that the number of participants remained constant and the interest was persistent. In April, there were 27 participants who submitted their best 3 images. In May, we had 26, and now 28 MPS paid-up members submitted their best works, with a total of 84 projected images to be judged. Judging starts at 2 in the afternoon, and it will be streamed live. All MPS paid-up members can join and follow the session. I would like to personally thank Mr. Joseph Mifsud and Mr. Sam Scicluna for their key role in the preparation and processing of the club competitions. Thank guys. Here is an exhibition by Clint Sherry Harkins, a member of the Malta Photographic Society, who is inviting us to glimpse into these intimate moments. Some are studio playful instances captured with great artistry, while others are experimental camera manipulations. And yes, others are captured unbeknownst to the model. In this exhibition, the artist is delving a step further into the deep burrow of intimacy by portraying his own partner and thus an integral part of his daily life. All images are extremely minimalist in composition and void of any props, yet so captivating and copious with reflections. It is all about her. The works are a mix of digital and analog photography. The exhibition is being held at Il Camera ta' Fuq, number 4 New Life Bar, Church Square, Abba. You can view this exhibition daily between 6 in the morning and noon. Evening viewings might vary weekly, so I suggest that you contact Clint or Il Camera ta' Fuq or Arts Wevin to book your visit. Anyone who wishes to come with us as an exco to visit this exhibition, I am kindly asking you to send me an email on chairman@mpsmalta.com. Sorry for my lengthy speech, but today I had a couple of news that I wanted to share, and now I hand over the floor to another member of the society, the prolific landscape and astrophotographer, Mr. Sam Scicluna.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Vince. Good evening, everyone. Thank you first of all, thank you to Malta Photographic Society for having me on another webinar. I can't believe it's been a year already since the last time I met you guys virtually. And obviously, congratulations to Charles and a big thank you to Kevin. Just to acknowledge, obviously, the contribution that Kevin has made and that Charles will continue to make to photography in Malta. Can everyone hear me clearly, just to be sure? Awesome, thank you.
Loud and clear.
Perfect, thank you. So today is going to be a bit different from what I've done in the past, and the last year I've been reflecting a lot on kind of why I do what I do and why I choose to shoot landscapes. As you all know, photography is very vast. Pretty much an infinite number of subjects you can choose, or many genres that you can choose. But I find myself time and again just shooting landscapes. And by landscapes, I mean astro as well, and also severe weather, but anything related to nature pretty much. Um, I'm actually worried that if I point my camera at a person, it might, the lens might crack. So I'm not good with people photography. So I stick to nature, and my my reflection has led me to understand a bit more about why I do what I do. So I'm going to talk about that today. I'll be showing a couple of my previous images, which some of you might be familiar with, but I'm also going to be showing some new images which I've captured over the last 12 months. So I'll just start off with a quick run through of what the contents are going to be. Quick introduction about myself. As Vince and Stephen already said, I'm Sam Scicluna. I've been shooting landscapes now for probably about 6 years. At first, obviously, I shot everything that I could point my camera at. I think we all do when we get a camera and we start getting interested in photography. But then I really started to kind of focus in on what I wanted to work on, which is landscapes and nature. Um, the way I would describe myself, I think in all walks of life, is obsessed with quality. Whether that's the quality of the images I put out, the quality of the workshops I deliver, the quality of the trips I organize. I'm focused. I'm always focused on quality, how to get the best out of whatever equipment or situation I have or I'm in. So yeah, that would be how I describe myself: obsessed with quality, which is good, but also sometimes leads to frustrations purely because I set very very high expectations of myself, and when I don't deliver, um, I don't always feel the best. So moving on, we'll talk a bit about gear. I've recently changed to mirrorless, and that's been an interesting adventure. I'll then go into why I shoot landscapes, the beauty of nature, the power of nature, some recent work, leave no trace, which I'm hoping people are starting to become more familiar with. Talk about some of my sponsors, my books, and upcoming workshops. And then, of course, any questions anyone has, I'll be happy to answer. So, first of all, gear. We had an interesting conversation just before we started around gear. I am a bit of a gear freak, I have to admit. I absolutely love gear. And throughout last year, I literally spent a whole year weighing out the pros and cons of whether I should move to mirrorless or stick to my DSLR. Not that I was unhappy with the results. I previously had a Nikon D810, full frame, fantastic camera, fantastic results, no concerns on that. The move to mirrorless was purely about making my gear smaller, making my gear lighter, which means that I can probably hike that bit further. I can probably carry a bit more water instead of carrying a big heavy lens, which tends to be quite important when you're in the mountains and when you're hiking. Um, so naturally, I expected my gear to the amount of gear I carry to significantly reduce. But as you can see, I've got quite a collection at this point in time. So um, different tripods for different things, different lenses for different things. I've bought the Nikon Z7 II and the Nikon Z6 II, together with the 14 to 24 meter f2.8. 24 to 70, I've moved away from an f2.8 to go to an f4 lens purely because of the size and weight. This is so I previously had the 70 to 200 f2.8, which I sold to buy the 70 to 200 f4. And now, to go extreme, I've actually got a 24 to 200 f4 to f5.6 to really go minimalist when I'm in the mountains. I don't need f2.8 if I'm up in the mountains. I always work on a tripod, so aperture f2.8 isn't important apart from when it's wide open, which is when I'm shooting astro. Different bags, again, for different reasons. So this is my trusty f-stop Tiropa. It's been with me for 4 years. This is my f-stop Tiropa's replacement. Still nice and clean, haven't used it yet. This is my f-stop Suka, which is a bigger bag for camping trips, just because obviously I need to carry a lot more when I go camping. And then some other stuff here, which you might not be too familiar with: star trackers and scopes to align the trackers, a panoramic head, a baby tabletop tripod, chargers, batteries, filters, head torch. I use Haida filters, and I have done for several years, and find them absolutely brilliant. And then several different ICUs, again, depending on what I'm doing and where I'm going. So I want to carry all my gear if I'm going for a weekend to Gozo. This is the nice big ICU that I have, which fits into this bag, and that contains, I can fit pretty much 80% of this, apart from the tripods, in my bag. I'm going camping though, and I'm just going to take, one camera and my wide-angle lens. I'll use the smallest one to give me more space in the bag for other stuff like food, clothes, first aid kit, a stove to cook with, a tent to sleep in, sleeping bag, that sort of stuff. So yeah, so my gear list is pretty never ending, to be honest. And I thought I'd be simplifying and reducing when moving to mirrorless, but that hasn't quite happened. I've still got a couple of lenses which are not mirrorless lenses, so I use the Nikon FTZ adapter for that. I've got a 300 f4. I've got the original 70-200 here, and I've got a couple of primes which I use for astro. So before I move on, I just want to talk about why I shoot landscapes, right? So there are so many different reasons, and my self-reflection has led to me really trying to find uncover the most important ones. And I'm sure most of you can relate to some of these. So the first reason is that landscapes are a reason for me to get out in nature, away from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. I think more than ever now, especially people working from home for the last 12 months, it's really hard to disconnect sometimes. So being able to go out in the fresh air, in nature, makes a huge difference to both mental and physical health. And I think, the importance of mental health has been understated for a while, and hopefully we'll start to see a significant increase in people's understanding and a change in attitude towards mental health, because mental health is just as important as physical health. Landscapes enable me to discover new places and see more of the world naturally. Shooting landscapes is therapeutic and relaxing at times, right? Because when the light's good and you're running around and you're jumping from one rock to the other, that's not what I'd call therapeutic and relaxing, but it definitely is. It can be, especially when you're taking it easy and you're waiting for the light. Landscapes allow freedom of interpretation and allow me to be myself in my own work. Whenever I view my own images, it takes me back to that time and place with very vivid memories. And I don't know if you feel the same way about your images, but sometimes you can almost, if I don't know, you're shooting a sunrise, you can go back and you can hear the waves crashing and you can smell the sea salt. It's so vivid, the memories that you can get from looking at a picture. It takes you back in time. Shooting landscapes is totally important of attention to detail and always focusing on details. And then two very interesting statements. Landscape photography is incredibly easy, and landscape photography is incredibly difficult. So there are times when the elements just align, you get out of your car, you don't even need to set up your tripod, handheld shot, and you've got an amazing shot there and then. There are other times where, you'll be out for a number of hours in adverse conditions just trying to get a shot. And sometimes that still leads in failure, and you have to keep trying. So perseverance is extremely important. Sharing my work helps others to appreciate the beauty of nature and encourage them to do more to protect it. I think, in the last 5 years, there's been more focus on nature, the natural world, the impact we're having on our planet, and just how quickly we're degrading the planet. So hopefully, if people can see a picture and that, for a second makes them think, wow, the earth really is a beautiful place. Maybe I won't buy bottled water. Maybe I'll have a reverse osmosis fit at home. Maybe I'll have solar panels. Anything you can do to be sustainable, to try and reduce the impact we have. And yes, recycling is good, but recycling is nowhere near as good as avoiding buying plastic in the first place where you can do. Um, Landscape photography is a constant challenge. You're always trying to get a better image. So there are some locations I've probably visited 20, 30, 40, 50 times. And I just keep going back because I'm not happy with the result or it's not what I envisioned originally. So that's one of the things that is interesting. If you went to a place once, got the shot, you'd probably never visit that place again. So it keeps you going back for more. The thrill of good light is indescribable. Um, I suppose, well, the only way I can try to describe it is it's actually like a high when you get that amazing light. It's just incredible. And everything you've done before, all the failures you've had, simply melt away once you've got that light and you've nailed the shot you wanted to nail. Um, Witnessing Mother Nature at her most powerful, most beautiful, fragile, and frightening are all things that draw me to landscapes and showing people. Vince mentioned earlier that I also shoot severe weather and storms. A lot of people find them scary. I do too when we have a close call, and that is a reality of it. But it is also showing the beauty of nature and how important it is that we are doing everything we can to protect it. Um, Being alone helps me reconnect with nature and get a sense of perspective as well. So a lot of the time I will go out on my own to shoot. There are times where I'm with people as well, but generally it's on my own where I'm shooting for myself. Planning, traveling, and shooting landscapes are all steps necessary to help my vision come to life. So the process isn't just about clicking the shutter when you're on location. I nowadays I don't think there are any of my shots which aren't planned weeks or months in advance. So the clicking of the shutter when you're on location is the ultimate culmination of that build up, that process that starts with having an idea, seeing a picture of a particular place, thinking, I wonder what I could shoot there. Searching on Google Maps, using like photo bills to plan whether you want to shoot sunrise, sunset, moonrise, moonset, the Milky Way. Um, and then finally clicking the button and watching that small JPEG preview on the back of your screen is basically the final result. Um, Sharing my images helps me to tell my story and helps my audience to feel that they are part of the adventure as well. So, especially I think currently with situation we're in, a lot of people are desperate to travel, desperate to be outdoors and get some fresh air. I think just coming across an image and and if it makes somebody feel good, then that's positive for sure, because it's going to help them to kind of make their day better. Landscape photography helps me keep fit, both mentally and physically. A lot of hiking involved, especially certain locations which are remote. And I think the final one is making sacrifices helps me to become stronger and more resilient. So there is a lot of sacrifice in landscape photography. And it's really important that you use that to your advantage. So just an example, yesterday I went out for a meal with a couple of friends and then was torn about whether I should go out to shoot the Milky Way, knowing that I had a full day of work today and obviously this presentation. But I still went out. I still got home at 5 in the morning. I'm running on 4.5 hours of sleep, but it was worth it because I managed to get the shot I wanted to. And last night was pretty much the last night I could get that shot for the next few weeks. So definitely ended up being worth it. So enough talking, a bit more about the photos. So this is just showing, this is some of my previous photos. You might be familiar with some of these, but just wanted to run through them. So this is all about the beauty of nature. So, this is when things line up. Spent the night here camping at Malta last year. Went there for Astro, had no intention of shooting sunrise because it's not a sunrise location. But when you get an early rain shower which wakes you up, and then suddenly the rainbow and the sky on fire, and you find the perfect boulder to fit in the middle, then you kind of think, I didn't get to shoot the Milky Way, but I got a shot which is 10 times more unique because I've never seen a shot like this of this particular location. This is a golden oldie from Gozo. Again, camping. You'll notice it's a trend with my shots. Being out in nature makes such a difference. Camping on location gives you such an advantage. You connect with the location. You know the location and kind of can really adapt to the light based on what's happening. So this is the salt pans in Shueni in Gozo. There's a crescent moon there, just rising, and also Venus at the top. Very popular location. I've met plenty of people at this location, Stephen included. This is St. Peter's Pool in the south of Malta. Again, a location I've probably been to 30 or 40 times in the last 4 years. But sometimes you get lucky and sometimes you just get these fantastic displays of color. This was one of those days where I parked up at the car park, it was pouring rain, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to bother getting out. But I have waterproof clothes, and if I did get wet, it's not the end of the world, right? So went out anyway, and 15 minutes later, there was this incredible sunrise, the best I've seen there. The different layers of clouds and the different colors. The core of the storm was just off at this point, just off the coast, so you can see the rain curtain on the horizon. But um, that is one of the things I mentioned about sacrifice. Yes, I'm going to be uncomfortable. I'm probably going to be cold for half an hour, but to get a shot like this, in my opinion, it's totally worth it. An umbrella pine in Tuscany. So again, just beautiful place. I know quite a few people have been to Tuscany as well. You don't need a complicated composition, a single tree, central composition. It's all about the colors, right? It's all about the gradient in the sky from the cool tones where there's no warm light hitting to the warm light on the horizon, the soft light because there's no direct sunlight yet filling the foreground. You don't need to have anything really complicated. You can find a great picture from something simple. I would probably live here if I could. This is Cima di Lavaredo in the Dolomites, which I've been to 3 times now. Spent about 6 nights here in total. Again, shooting astro, shooting sunrise, shooting sunset. This is the sunrise. Really, really lucky. This is the first time I was there actually. This is looking directly south, so the sun was rising towards the east. So the warm light is coming in from the left. Beautiful shadows in the mountains. Beautiful definition from the light, that side light, which is really helping everything look 3D and textured, and a beautiful sky as well. So definitely lucked out with that. Another one from the Dolomites, Cinque Torri, the Five Towers. Again, this was a sunrise shot. The sun had already come up here, it's behind the clouds, but where the light bursts through the clouds gives you just this beautiful soft light. And obviously you can see the shadows there, creating some nice contrast. This is literally the camera. So this is where you, using a wide angle lens, can really help you to exaggerate the foreground. The camera was literally 3 or 4 inches from this flower, and this is a focus stack of 8 different shots. So the only way you're going to get everything in focus is by focus stacking. When I focus on this first flower, this flower is out of focus. So I'm going to focus on this flower, this flower, this flower. In total, 8 shots, including the sky, to make sure I've got all the detail. Because the last thing I'd want to do is have one flower in focus and everything else blurred. In landscapes, that kind of crisp sharpness is important throughout. So it helps give more of a depth of field and a sense of depth to the photo. Makes it look more 3D than if you just had everything blurred out because of a shallow depth of field. Speaking of depth, these leading lines feel like they go on forever. This bit is only probably about 8 or 10 meters long, but getting down low with a wide angle lens, filling the frame with these natural formations in the ground, kind of give that feeling of depth. Again, beautiful side lights coming in, first light hitting the mountains. This side is in the shadow. No light on the foreground, but it doesn't really bother me because the foreground, the whole idea behind the foreground is to purely pull your eyes straight towards the mountain, which is where you see the color, where you see the warm light, and you see the contrast. This is also Trecime. This is sunset. The sun had just about, from where I was standing, it had just about hid behind the mountain, but that beautiful warm light hitting the peaks right there. I mean, beautiful composition. You've got your standard S curve there, drawing you in towards the composition, light hitting different peaks in the background and a colorful sky. So this was a really lucky one. This was, to be honest, this sunset was, I was trying to multitask. I set up my camera before. I was cooking dinner at the same time because I was staying there till late to shoot the Milky Way. So didn't expect the sunset to be that good because 20 minutes earlier there wasn't a single cloud in the sky. But luckily the clouds appeared at the right time. This is Seceda in the Dolomites also, one of the most incredible ridge lines that there is. Just for scale, this is a house, right? So you can see how massive these mountains are. And obviously down here you can see the forests and the trees. So one of the most interesting places in the Dolomites. Every time I've been here, I've got rained on, which doesn't bode well. But hopefully, I'm hoping that luck changes. I've never got a nice, colourful sunset or sunrise here. It's always been clouds, low clouds below me most of the time. Sometimes you can't even see the peaks because you're literally in the clouds, and very wet and rainy. And it's about an hour's hike down to the hut, so you'll be uncomfortable for a while after that. Iceland. Oops, my bad. I'll go back 1 second. Iceland. Literally, this is an ice cave in the Breiðamerkurjökull Glacier in Iceland. Um, just incredible experience. Nature at its best, I'd say. Considering this is all solid ice and this is hundreds of thousands of years old. But also consider that this is moving, right? So glaciers are always moving, they're also receding. So this tunnel, although it is solid, is moving a couple of meters every few months. So it is an absolutely incredible place to be. There's water on the floor here, which is why you can see such a nice reflection. The colors, the blues are just incredible. And over here, where I'm standing, on top of me, there's a shaft called the Moulon, which is just basically a hole in the glacier, a drain in the glacier where water comes down from. So naturally, there's light flooding in from there. Definitely one of the most interesting places to visit. And ice caves in particular are particularly susceptible to climate change and global warming, just because it's ice, right? So as soon as the temperatures are hotter than they should be, these are all disappearing. They're melting much quicker than they should be. A friend of mine who's a guide and does ice cave tours, who brought us to this ice cave, actually said that on average, this particular ice cave is receding about 35 meters a year. When you think about that, it's a huge amount, considering that glaciers should, in theory, be getting longer because they're always moving downhill. So definitely a concern there. Iceland in winter. This is the same trip as the ice cave. As you can see, there wasn't snow, but there was a lot of frost, right? So this is an interesting one. This is the first time I've ever finished shooting after sunset, gone to close my tripod and it wouldn't close. And it wouldn't close because the spray from the waterfall, as soon as it comes into contact with anything, it freezes. So the legs of my tripod were frozen open. So what I did was obviously carry the tripod down to the car whilst it was still open, warm a mug of hot water and slowly defrosted the legs until I could close them and we could get on the road. Because obviously this was my big tripod and I wouldn't be able to fit it in the car with the legs open. So really, really interesting. This is called Seljalandsfoss waterfall. You can see icicles here hanging over. And the best thing is, by sunset, a lot of the tourists have gone. Clone Stamp has helped to get rid of some of them, but it wasn't that busy to begin with, which is a good thing. Another waterfall in Iceland. Very famous because you can see I can see the face of a troll here. You can see like the profile of a face. And there's a myth that there is treasure buried at the bottom of this waterfall. Again, cloudy day. It doesn't always have to be sunrise or sunset. When you get these big moody clouds, again, it was rainy here. You can still get some fantastic shots. Another ice cave one, bit of a more of a close-up where you can actually see how solid it is textured obviously, but it is solid. It is one solid piece of ice. That's a natural window. That's our guide. He was kind enough to pose for us, and that's the mouth of the ice cave, which basically leads into the glacier lagoon. So you can see the ground was actually frozen because of how cold it was. The little bit of water there was frozen and cracked. Kirkjufell, a very famous mountain in Iceland, very iconic. And this shot was obviously I got some really good light, which I was very pleased with, but it's all about the composition and it's trying to mirror the shape of that mountain, trying to find something in the foreground which looks similar. So it's not identical, but it gives you that repetition of shapes. So you've got two triangles, and also it leads a bit as a leading line as well to pull you in towards the mountain. Probably my favorite spot in Iceland is Stoknes or Vestrahorn. Just the most photogenic mountains you can see. This is the sea. Because this is the tide and not waves, they wash in very slowly. And when between one wave and another, you get the opportunity to kind of shoot a mirror reflection of the mountains. So incredible black sand beach. Iceland is full of black sandy beaches because it's volcanic, but just an incredible place. Iceland as well, a hidden canyon. The light all comes in from the top, as you can see the highlights on the person. And I chose to use the person in the shot here purely to show scale. Without that person there, it's difficult to tell how big this is, but this is actually about 30 meters tall, so pretty significant. Um, Really challenging to shoot in here. I like to call this place the washing machine because the spray in the air just swirls around. So you literally need to compose your shot, dial in all your settings, wipe the lens, take a shot, wipe the lens, take a shot, and even though you're doing it quickly, you still get droplets on the lens, which can be annoying. But between multiple shots, you can actually get rid of them. Foss in Iceland as well. This is going into the highlands. Really, really interesting. Again, you can tell by the weather here, not the most pleasant weather, but certainly makes for a dramatic landscape. So massive rain shower had just passed us when we arrived here. It was pouring. Within about half an hour, the rain had kind of moved down further in the valley, and I got out and shot this one. One of my favorites. Very dark and moody. Very cool tones. You know, this was the middle of the day in a thunderstorm. There was no warm light whatsoever. Unlike this song, which is Brewafos in Iceland, this is one of those beautiful waterfalls I've seen. The blue water is actually, well, the water is actually that color because it's glacial belt. It's not just regular water that you find in a river. It's actually the water from a glacier which is melting. Just beautiful shape. I didn't go for a very long exposure because I wanted to keep some texture in the water here. I've seen a lot of shots which were like 30 seconds long, but for me, you kind of lose this beautiful texture when you go that long. So, middle of winter, you can see there's snow, ice all over the place, very slippery. Not the place you'd want to fall in either because it was rather cold. Again, you have a different composition here. In summer, this is a lake, but this was frozen. So I managed to find some interesting cracks in the ice. Again, this is focus stacked image just because I'm really close to this ice. This patch of ice is probably about 20 centimeters big, but getting right in there with a wide angle lens, you can exaggerate the size and show some interest. Another waterfall in Iceland. This is Aldearfoss, which is in the north. A nightmare to get to. A lot of people shoot this from on top, but I wanted to get something different, something unique. I ventured down and found some really interesting rocks here, covered in lichen and moss, which really stood out. And obviously, managed to get some really nice light at sunrise. This is something we don't see in Malta. Boiling mud pots. This is a geothermal area. You can see steam vents just coming out of the ground, masses of steam coming out of the ground there at sunrise. But the detail in the mud here is just incredible. I love the amount of detail there is, the cracks in the mud, the colors as well from the different elements which there are. There's a lot of sulfur. Any geothermal areas, just a heads up, stink of rotten eggs because of the sulfur. So um, that's one of the challenges when shooting geothermal areas, just trying to put up with the smell for as long as you can. Same waterfall as earlier, Seriansfoss, but this is in summer. The midnight sun managed to. There was a tiny break in the horizon, and the sun popped through, lit up the clouds, lit up the water in the waterfall. Another really challenging shot because you're so close to the water, and it comes down with so much power that pretty much everything gets absolutely soaked. So you need to constantly be wiping your lens. A very serene image of the Jökulsárlón Glacier Lagoon. A nice round rock, a crystal clear piece of ice catching the light at sunset. And then you've got the glacier in the background and the icebergs floating around. Probably one of my favorite images from Iceland. This is also Hauifoss, different angle, different season, still a rainy day, but this was the first time I ever experienced fall colors. We don't really get autumnal colors here in Malta, but seeing the leaves just go red, orange, and yellow was an incredible experience, and it's made me want to travel more in autumn purely to see those colors. Because where else do you get to see beautiful reds and oranges in the ground in landscapes? Oxarafoss waterfall in Iceland. Again, sunrise, bit of colour in the sky. Definitely an interesting place to visit. Not during the day though, because it's packed with tourists. This was a mission to reach. This is Sigolduglur Canyon. It's actually a man-made canyon, but the waterfalls are natural, right? So the water is naturally falling into it. The color again is purely because the water is coming from glaciers and it has this incredible color to it. Happened to be a rainy day as well, which seems to be the theme in my Iceland photos. My favorite canyon in Iceland, like takes me straight back to Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and just like how perfect is this canyon? The viewpoint is straight down the middle. You have the waterfall, you have the the pointy triangular mountain, you've got the glacier behind it. Everything is central. You've got the high canyon walls. Just an incredible place to be. Something to really appreciate um, in front of your eyes. And another interesting one in Iceland. Interesting canyon to visit, waterfall down the middle, these spires. To be honest, this shot wouldn't have worked if it wasn't terrible weather and foggy and cloudy, because it just adds so much mystery and mood to the image. This was a sunny day, and yeah, there was hot light hitting the side of the canyon. It just wouldn't work. So this is just so much more interesting, lucked out with it. And my final image from Iceland, at least from my previous work anyway, is this waterfall. I love the foreground here, the way the rocks point towards the subject, leading lines. You've got the river taking up along the valley, low clouds hanging in there, just some really good stuff. Um, so, bit of astro. This is the Cardini di Misurina and the Dolomites. My first trip to the Dolomites. 10 minutes later, we were completely covered in these clouds. These are clouds below us. And 10 minutes later, those clouds had risen and we couldn't see anything else. So, really lucky to manage to get this shot before everything got clouded up. This is Blatta in Malta, the Milky Way in summer. Percime before sunrise, so there's a bit of a glow on the towards the horizon on the peaks, but some beautiful stars in the night sky. Same here with Baita Segantini. You can still see the stars, but sunrise starts to take over. Cinque Torri again, again different time of day, beautiful night. The yellow glow is the light pollution because there is Cortina d'Ampezzo, a very big city nearby, but still the night sky is just incredible there. Our fabulous little tower in Comino, St. Mary's Tower. This is quite an old shot, but it remains one of my favorite just because every time I've been recently, the lights have been off. So this was a really important shot for me because I wanted to get that warm light on the tower and then the contrast of the blue sky. I haven't done a star trade in a while, but this photo has so much meaning, right? So obviously the arch isn't there anymore. And this shot didn't turn out how I had hoped. We shot this in 2016, I believe, and we were planning to go and shoot it again, but we never got around to it. Then, unfortunately, obviously, the art was reclaimed by nature, but it's just made it even more valuable, to be honest. Although I wished it had come out better, it's just made it more valuable because of the situation. Different type of star trail where you can use comets to kind of give more of a sense of motion as opposed to a straight trail. And this is also the tower in Comino. Again, composition-wise, very central, leading lines from the banners are taking you straight in. And obviously, you've got the movement of the stars because of the Earth's rotation. Talk about wonders of nature. This is probably need no introduction, but the Aurora Borealis, the Northern Lights. In Iceland, this is Skogafoss waterfall, the one I showed you where there was the troll earlier. Just a magical night. Seeing the aurora on any night, I think, is a good night. So I've been lucky enough to see them plenty of times because of my time in Iceland. So this is again Kirkjufell, that same mountain I mentioned earlier. Kirkjufell Foss, the waterfall, and then the aurora just literally erupting behind it. Stuxnet as well, beautiful show. Pretty much up all night shooting this show. It was just incredible. And my favorite little dragon, dinosaur, not sure what you'd call it, but to me it looks like some kind of dinosaur drinking out of the water. It's obviously a natural rock formation. That looks absolutely fantastic. It's all sand around it, so when the tide's going out, you get these beautiful reflections. What a cloudy night, but I can't complain. I got to see the aurora um, at such an incredible location. And one more from Stockness. Again, that same night with an incredible show. So that's the beauty of nature. Looking at the power of nature now. A very interesting subject for me. A lot of thrills in storm chasing. Obviously, a lot of risks as well. So it's important that you make wise decisions and don't push your luck. This is actually last year. So this actually was October 2020. I've actually got a close up of this where it actually hit one of the boulders at Maestral Park. Um, Vince will remember the lovely hike we had here because Vince joined us on a workshop last year to Maestral Park. And this is the Golden Sands Hotel, obviously, and here is Eindhoven for you. But yeah, an incredible lightning bolt hitting just off hitting one of the boulders on the coast there. This is after a night of storm chasing when you get into bed because everything's stopped and then suddenly you see a flash and you think, should I? Obviously, in my case, I do. So get back out of bed, no matter how tired you are, no matter what time you have work in the morning. Get back out of bed, dress, camera. This was luckily just from my balcony, so I didn't need to actually go out again. But it's not the first time I've been out 3 or 4 times in a night, just because everything dies down, you think it's over, and then it starts up again. So this is the Church of Siguri, an incredible. It's a single lightning bolt. If you trace it back, you can see it's one lightning bolt, which then went down into 2 branches. But definitely one of my favorite shots of last year. I call this one the corkscrew. This is the first time I ever saw the actual vortice of the warm, humid air coming into a thunderstorm. So you can see it looks like a trebuchet or a corkscrew here. That's actually warm air being sucked into the thunderstorm as it grows and develops. Another golden oldie. It's not the lightning's not actually striking the ship, right? It's behind it, but it couldn't be in a better position because it looks like it is being struck. And again, twin bolts on a single strike. Pull this on the jellyfish, just because for some reason it reminds me of a jellyfish. I love the colors. This is the back of a storm, which we don't usually see. And obviously you can see all the lightning coming out the back and the point of contact just down there at the bottom. This is one of the rare times we see a full thunderstorm, and you can see the full anvil here. This is the coast of Gozo, shot from the north of Malta, and you can see literally just missed the coast by a whisker. This is another one from last year, the same night as the one from Maestral Park, but these just happened to be at sea. And it's probably the favorite one from last year, storm chasing. You can see the rotation in the cloud here as the warm air is fed into the storm rotates. I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of supercells in the USA, those massive storms which look like spaceships. This is obviously nowhere near that, but it is the same process. It is the rotation of the clouds developing into a massive storm. And obviously, Firfla there and the lightning bolt coming straight off to the right. So those are a lot of my golden hours. This is my recent work. So in the last year, obviously, I've not been able to travel at all. What I've done, the decision I took was to kind of invest a lot in my business, right? It's exploring new places, being able to offer something which other people don't offer locally, which is like proper full-on workshops in terms of like a weekend workshop. So I've been to Comino I've been camping between another 4 times to explore Camino, to scout it, to get obviously shots which we can use, because we're actually organising a workshop in Camino in October. So this is the tower. This is just after sunrise. Again, it was a storm. It was very wet and cold, but once the light got under the clouds, it was just absolutely incredible. The colours, the light, just really adds to the scene. A different art which we're not used to seeing. Again, this is in Comino. Never got a good sky with this one. It's pretty much just the warm glow of sunset, but a really interesting shape. And this art's actually massive. It's really tall. I'd say probably 25 or 30 meters, just like the Azure window was. I love flowers in the foreground. It's a pity we don't have more wildflowers in Malta. So again, this is the Comino Tower, sunrise, and I managed to find a beautiful, massive bush of yellow flowers and I thought I'm really happy with. This is focus stack to get everything in focus because again, I was really close to it. This is more recent. So this has become my nemesis. I've been to this location probably around 10 times in the last 3 months to try and shoot the Milky Way. Every time I've been there, there's been clouds. This, you can very faintly see the Milky Way here, and this is obviously close towards sunrise. But this was the closest I got at the time because it was cloudy and then suddenly cleared up for sunrise, which is pretty much the opposite of what you'd want. Another interesting arch in Comino, this is actually the Blue Lagoon, but there's a really nice arch here. Beautiful high clouds which caught the color, some direct light hitting the rocks there, and really, really interesting. This was my birthday present. Went out with a couple of friends to St. Peter's Pool and had the most fantastic sunrise. It was the 31st of January this year, so I still remember that and very grateful for it. I love the way the warm colors are just reflected in the rocks here. The rocks are wet, so naturally it just reflects that color and just adds a bit more to the image. This was shot on go back. This was shot on our workshop in Gozo last year in October. So we took a group of people up to Gozo, spent a whole weekend shooting landscapes and Astra, which was really fun. This is Reblat Al Halfa, but from a different angle, right? Everyone shoots it down from by the salt fans or from the pebbly beach. I wanted to try and find something different, and I just love the way the light is hitting, or a bit of the light is just hitting the foreground, but the rest is in shadow. So really, really interesting. A very famous spot near Arlapsi. This is my local spot. I live in Zerbouch, so this is like 10 minutes away. This is where from end of November through end of January, I fall out of bed and come to shoot here in the morning because it's pretty close for me. So this was this year. Again, you can see the rocks are all wet. It was in the middle of a rain shower, but managed to get an interesting shot. I was a bit disappointed by the sea. I generally like to have a lot more movement in the water, but we can't, beggars can't be choosers, I suppose. It is Palmyra as well, an interesting stack. Not a huge fan of the composition. I don't like the fact that it overlaps with Russell Raheb in the background, but had a decent sky, so thought I'd shoot anyway. Again, Jeblat Al Hafa from a different perspective, showing the weathered rock here, the detail in the weathered rock. That's an interesting foreground. And this is that same sunrise on my birthday from St. Peter's Pool. It's a different composition. I tried to get the foreground here to mirror the shape of the boulder. This was stop doing that. This was a really fun night. This turned out to be a massive night of storm chasing. This was an awesome sunset. The storms were already starting to build, as you can see by the thick band of clouds. Again, up really close with a wide angle lens to get on foreground, and this is the Tower of Einthoven. This is a couple of weeks back in Gozo. Again, just scouting different locations. What I wanted to go for this was that feel of a vanishing point. So kind of the idea here is that the leading lines take you right through Ol Al-Baida in the background there. Very interesting rock formations here, very interesting salt pans as well. In this Camel Rock, I've been through this so many times, never really had an image I'm particularly happy with, and this certainly leaves quite a bit to be desired. It's not something I'm ecstatic about, but I guess something I have to live with for now. Again, Gozo on a very wet morning, very rough seas, quite a dodgy place to be shooting because this is all slopey and it's all clay, so it's very slippery. So just use common sense, don't take any unnecessary risks. But again, one of these untouched places in nature, which is really nice to visit, as is this in Gozo. The formations in the ground are just incredible here. The color of the oxidized rocks, like a strong orange, just absolutely beautiful. This is on top of Arlapsi, the cave that there is. Bit of a scramble to get up to it, but somehow feels like it's perfectly placed in the center of it. So this is that sunset, some warm glow coming in from the right. This is in Shaira, in the south of Malta, at sunrise. Really nice colors, pastel hues in the sky. Nice movement in the water and swooshes of waves as well. This is another arch in Comino. There are a lot of arches in Comino. Again, really close to the foreground. I wanted to focus on the interesting formations in the rock. Not a sun star exactly. Unfortunately, there were no clouds, but managed to get a sun star on the arch. So another really interesting one. I tend to go to Antofagasta a lot. I think it's my comfort zone. Easiest place to go when I'm not sure of where I feel like driving to. So another sunset in Antofagasta. Love the contrast from warm tones to the cooler tones where there isn't that sunset light. But yeah, definitely one of my favorites of last year. Um, Maria. I've been every year for the past 4 years, so I'm pretty sure I'll go this year at some point as well. Very interesting place, incredible caves, interesting to get to. Quite a rough hike to get there, but definitely worth it when you end up with a good shot. And this is pretty much kind of a lot of what I've been doing the last year is Astro, right? So not been able to travel. We have a lot of clear nights, so Astro is the perfect solution. So this is Jebel Chantar. Set up my tent purely for scale, just to show how big the area is. I love the warm glow that's created when you put a light inside the tent. It's beautiful, and there's the Milky Way on top. Same here again for scale to show how big this cave actually is. Obviously, the effect of this is that the warm glow has gone everywhere. The whole rocks are already warm. But again, this is very early Milky Way season in February. Rather than that, a different boulder to what I usually shoot, but just as interesting. I did myself there for scale to how high the cliffs actually are. And another one from Black with a rising Milky Way, almost horizontal across the sky. This is Talhanria. We just had a workshop there last weekend, which was really good. We got really clear skies. This is just next to Hajarim and Imnaija temples, and great for the Milky Way. You can't shoot that too early because if you're facing further to the east, there's the light pollution from Zuri and which is Zuri. But once the Milky Way comes out towards the south, it's fantastic. This was one of my failed attempts at shooting the Milky Way at Ilmun again. Ilmun means the beak because it's the shape of a beak. It's as you can see, again, selfie for scale, it's a massive formation. But I still haven't been able to get a clean shot. As you can see, there are clouds in the sky there. What I was surprised by was the clouds actually gave a beautiful glow to the star. So I still kept it as a keeper. It's not what I wanted, but it's not a bad shot either. So we'll accept that. This is just a couple of weeks ago as well. I love finding weathered limestone. The formations, as you can see, they're just incredible. And obviously, the Milky Way was almost vertical here, so it's pretty late at night, probably around 3 in the morning. One of those where you sleep at 9 o'clock, set an alarm for midnight, and head out, and then soldier through your day at work the next day. This is that same cave at Arlapsi, this time with the Milky Way. Again, there were some clouds on the horizon, not quite what I hoped for, so we'll have to reshoot this one for sure. A beautiful Girnan Maestral Park. I was actually there yesterday at the same location, trying a different shot, which I haven't even looked at yet, but should probably be interesting. Probably my favorite boulder. I call it the shark fin boulder because if you look at it from the side, it looks exactly like a shark fin. Yes, the core of the Milky Way is hidden behind it, but that doesn't bother me, right? As in, to me, this is a real shot. I could have, like other people, stepped out, shot the Milky Way, and then moved it in the sky, but that's not reality, right? The reality is that unfortunately the Milky Way is hidden behind the rock. So I'm very careful when I make sure I portray reality when it comes to my night sky images and not move things around where they couldn't be. Maestral Park as well. Again, just incredible boulder fields everywhere. It's just a labyrinth and it's never ending, to be honest. Again, Maestral Park. Just some of the rocks have some incredible detail, some incredible striations and lines in them, which makes for some really interesting foreground. Don't know why this is here again, so apologies. This is last week at Maestral Park as well. Massive boulder, which looks like a pyramid when you look at it head on. Again, person there is purely for scale to show how big these boulders really are, but another really interesting shot. And this one as well. These two are on the same night. It's not actually last week. It's this week, I think. I've lost track of the days, but yeah, this weekend or this week. But on a long night out, I just love the shape of this rock. I want to shoot this later in the year when the Milky Way will be actually over the other side as it rotates, because it probably makes a stronger composition, but definitely interesting. You can see the detail in the rocks here. Last year we were graced by Comet Neowise, which was an interesting change of subject. So obviously went out trying to capture it. Not the best quality shot, to be honest. It's the best I could muster. The start backer I use is not designed for big heavy lenses and zooms, and you need a pretty big lens to be able to shoot this full on. So I did what I could with the equipment I have. And again, Neowise over Verdala Palace early in the morning. This was the Geminids meteor shower last year, and there's Orion here. You can see Orion, the constellation of Orion there. That was an interesting night on my own in the dark, but definitely worth the result. Ari Reich, well, I thought it was Fisherman's Cave, but apparently it's Ari Reich. This is in the south of Malta as well, next to Harfar. I shot this 3 years ago before it became so popular. And this is into blue hour, right? So the sky is lighter, it's not pitch black at the time. Another awesome pyramid-shaped rock in my straw. This is not the one I mentioned earlier, it's actually a different one. But as you can see, all of these images, the idea behind them is just to show how beautiful the natural world around us is, and we really do need to protect it. So this is Comino Tower. This is the constellation Scorpio and the constellation Sagittarius. I obviously just added a line so you can see what they look like and identify them. This is the tower in Gozo. I've forgotten the name of it. This was shot when I was in Gozo a couple of weeks back as well. I believe it's Soku Tower. And this boulder is actually called, or the climber's named it, Tower of Power. It's a very famous climbing route. And again, I shot this in Gozo a couple of weeks back. One of the people who's been very influential in kind of changing my way of thinking is Dr. Jane Goodall. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with her, but I've picked up 3 quotes which she's famous for saying, or 3 of her quotes which are famous, and just want you to think about what they mean and how important they are. So the first one is, what you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make. Right? So we all have choices daily of what we can and can't do, what we could and shouldn't do. But just be conscious of your choices. Be conscious of, the impact it has on not just others around you, but also the environment. Only if we understand will we care. Only if we care will we help, and only if we help shall all be saved. I'm not sure if you're again. Dr. Jane Goodall is a person who studied primates for pretty much all of her life. She's very famous. She's a primatologist, an anthropologist, and an activist. But her words are very truthful, I'd say, because this planet that we are given, we're not exactly leaving it in a better state than we found it. So all this comes down to just trying to do our bit to make sure that we are protecting the planet and trying to do everything we can to protect nature. To conserve nature. And the greatest danger to our future is apathy, which again is really true because it's so easy to do nothing. It's so easy to just say, oh, somebody else will do it. We see a piece of plastic on the floor, somebody else will pick it up. And with that attitude, we're not going to improve the situation. I mentioned earlier the leave no trace principles. So these obviously apply to anyone who is out in nature, not just landscape photographers. Respect all living things. Not just animals. Don't go walking over a bush if you can walk around it, sort of thing. Dispose of waste appropriately, as in, take it home with you, throw it in a bin, don't just leave it on the floor. Leave what you find is a really important one, as in a lot of people kind of go somewhere and they take a knick-knack home, or they find a rock that they like, but moving that rock can affect a particular creature's habitat. So just leave things as they are. Appreciate them the way they are and in the setting that they're in. Think before you act. Obviously, we all know our actions have consequences. Think, is there a way I can do this more sustainably? Is there a way I can do this with having less of an impact on nature? Can I buy stuff which has less plastic in it? Can I reuse, which is so much more important than recycling? And this is the biggest bear bug for me, which I can't stand. And you see this all over the place, right? People are so selfish. If you carried it there, you can carry it back, right? If you've carried a full bottle of water with you, which weighs 2 kilos, you can carry an empty bottle of water back, which probably weighs 100 grams. You know, people go for picnics, they go for barbecues by the beach. They take so much stuff with them, and what happens? That stuff remains there. If you've carried it there, just take it back with you. It's not complicated. We can all be a bit more aware of this, and we can all do our part to make a difference. My favorite quote, I know this quote has been butchered several times, is take only photos, leave nothing but footprints. Right? I think that says it all. Nobody needs to know that you are at that location. You don't need to leave anything behind. Don't leave any rubbish behind. Don't change things. Leave them as they should be. Take photos. The original quote, I believe, is take only memories, leave nothing but footprints. But to me, take only photos is a bit more relevant, so I've decided to use that um, for this picture. So thank you to my sponsors, first of all. So I am very blessed to have a lot of sponsors who provide a lot of the equipment you've seen there. So Sunway Photo, all sorts of L brackets, tripods, ball heads, the works. They provide me everything. Samyang have been kind enough to give me some lenses. I use a MyOps trigger to trigger my camera remotely with using my phone, using the app, which is fantastic to avoid camera shake. Move, shoot, move. The tracker that they provide is the one I use. They've actually provided me a second one which we use on workshops with participants. Data color, providing a calibrator. BenQ for providing the monitor that I use to edit. Nightcore, all my head torches, camping lights. They're all provided by Nightcore. And HIDA filters. Like I said, I started using HIDA way before they ever sponsored me, but the companies that sponsor me, I work with companies that I believe in because they genuinely have products which are good quality, right? I'm not gonna work with someone I don't believe in. So everyone I work with, I endorse because they have good value. And obviously F-Stop are the guys who make the packs that I use, the camera bags. Yes, they're expensive, but I've had 7 or 8 different camera bags, and none of them compare to the versatility and the quality that you get with an F-Stop pack. And they've become quite popular now. A lot of people have started to buy them. It is an investment. If you take care of it, it will last you for years, but definitely an interesting one. Onto my book. So I have my landscape photography handbook, which is already available. It's been available. It's been on sale for a year. It is an ebook, right? So it's not a physical copy, but just a breakdown of what there is. There's a lot of stuff in there. The feedback I've had has been amazing, and we've sold over 100 copies. So it's definitely something that people are finding useful. So if you're interested, you can head over to our website to download that. This ebook will be out in, I say a couple of weeks, it'll probably be a couple of months. I've done all the writing, I've added all the images, but obviously the editorial part of a book takes ages, just making sure that there aren't any spelling mistakes, making sure that everything is as it should be. So this will be out soon as well. Again, 130 pages long, over 150 images, lots of information, everything you need to know about shooting the night sky, whether it's how to plan it, the equipment you need, the technique, the camera settings, talking about foreground, star trails, the Milky Way, everything you need, anything that happens after dark, this will tell you how to do it. And just to wrap up, a couple of workshops. So our Blatthalmer and Tarhamia workshops were sold out. We've still got a few places on the Maestral workshop, which is it's on the 30th or 31st of July. The reason we said 30th or 31st is because if the weather isn't great on the 30th, we'll push it back to the 31st. This way, we're giving a better service by ensuring that there's flexibility with the dates, rather than just saying, sorry, it's cloudy and cancelling the workshop. So there's still a few places left for that. We've only launched it this week, but it's already half full. So if you are interested in learning about the Milky Way and also are interested in adventure, then this is the one for you. If you're not up for an adventure and a hike, then this is not the workshop for you because it is a significant hike. Vince can attest to that because he joined us on the same workshop last year. the Gozo Landscape Photography Weekend. So we organized the first one this year in October. That's sold out. We have another one in October, which is sold out. Sorry. And we now have the third one with just 4 spots left. So anyone who wants to do a full-on weekend in Gozo with Gilbert and myself, we'll be shooting 2 sunrise sessions, 2 sunset sessions, and an astro session at night. Obviously, we'll be in a farmhouse. The accommodation is covered in the cost. Just get it again. Go on my website. You can find all the details there. If you have any questions, let me know. But definitely, a full-on weekend of landscape photography will help to get you in, get the bug for shooting landscapes and nature. Same with Comino. There are only 2 spots left. This is a camping workshop, right? So it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. But again, camping gets you closer to nature. At the moment, there is no permanent accommodation in Comino because they're rebuilding the hotel. So camping is the only option. But it's an incredible little island with a lot of opportunities. So if anyone's interested, there are just 2 spots left for this one. Tuscany next year with Mads. Mads is a great friend of mine. I don't know if any of you follow him on YouTube. He's a fantastic landscape photographer. We've only got 2 spots left on our Tuscany workshop. So if you fancy, this is a luxury workshop, right? So we've rented our own massive farmhouse agritourism with a pool in the Tuscan hills. So it's not going to be for everyone's budget potentially, but if you're up for it, that's definitely an option. Iceland next year, only 3 spots left. I'm organising this with Viking International Photo Tours. We've already got 7 spots booked. So this is a week in Iceland in summer, chasing the midnight sun. The midnight sun is pretty much where you get, if you're lucky, 6, 7, 8 hours of red skies. Because of the way the sun is, it never goes far below the horizon. So that's also where we're interested. And Dolomites have just both. So I've got 2 workshops with David Swindler in September, which is sold out, and the ones with Mads, which is sold out as well. So it's pretty much, well, the options are there. Finally, any questions from anyone? And obviously, thank you for your attention.
We've got a question from Mela. Let me see, from Tessa Mergia. And let me see
Hi,
if there
Tessa.
are any other questions. I don't think there are. We've got a question for sure from Tessa. So I'm going to open Tessa's mic so that she can ask you the question. Okay, Tessa?
Thank you.
Hi, Sam.
Hi, Tessa.
Hi, okay. A question, I'm not sure if it's possible, but do you organize workshops with storm chasing? I know storm chasing is a bit difficult to predict, maybe, so probably not, but I don't know if you have apps that you can sort of predict something like that.
The reality is no. We don't, purely because the weather is so fickle that there's no way to plan for it. And we could say you'll be on standby, but if I call you and say, okay, meet me there in half an hour, most people can't just leave whatever they're doing and head out. So logistically, it's very difficult. There are obviously it's completely different budget-wise, but there are storm chasing tours in America, which is something that I would love to do.
Sure.
Which is the tornadoes. But locally, it's very, very. I mean, you can't plan it because even when they say it's going to rain, half the time it doesn't.
It doesn't.
Or
I
they say
know.
it's beautifully sunny and then it ends up raining. So
I thought maybe you had some app that is a bit more, I wouldn't say precise because it can never be 100%, but you could work around that as an option and everyone keeps it free. So that's why I thought a far-fetched question maybe, but I was just wondering.
it's a really good one, and to be honest, it is something that we've thought about. So storm chasing, I do it with. We're a team of 3. There's also Steve and Fred in the team, and it is something we've discussed in the past. But the logistics of it are like really difficult because
I know.
it's not like any other weekend away where you can plan what you want to do and then whatever happens with the weather happens. This is like you specifically want lightning, and let's be honest, the last few years there's been such a reduction in the amount of
Rain, yes.
that it's become even more difficult to kind of be able to do anything. But definitely an interesting idea and something that if we do manage to come up with anything, I can let you know. I am in the process of writing a blog around storm chasing, which gives like hints and tips and stuff. So at least that will help potentially answer some questions as well. But I know not everyone's comfortable going out, obviously, especially adverse.
I love it. I love it. I really don't mind at all. But unfortunately, I don't have anyone to go with. So
Okay.
my
It
stays
makes a difference. That's one
storms.
one type of photography where it is important to have kind of a buddy and not be alone because
It's safer.
exactly it's not like going to shoot sunset, and again it depends on the location, right? But it's important to kind of have, or at least be more than one person. I'd say generally it's ideal to have more than one car as well, just in case anything happens.
Something happens on our side, but yes. Okay, thank you.
No worries. Thank you. Thanks for attending, Tessa.
Nothing at all.
Thank you, Tessa, for your question. And we've got Tony Azzopardi, who's have a question as well. I'm going to open your mic, Tony.
Thanks.
Okay.
Hi, Tony.
Hi Sam, first of all, hearty proset. I mean,
Thank you.
very illuminating and mesmerizing talk. Sam, you rightly so mentioned that the lighter you go, the better with equipment. You have a quite large kid there, and as I told you privately, you very well deserve it. Well, which gear do you prefer to take on a trek, especially if you're abroad?
So it depends on where I'm going and what I'm doing, like I mentioned
Okay.
earlier. So, the idea of going to mirrorless was in its most essential, right? If I'm in the mountains and I'm camping, which is going to be the scenario where I'm going to have the most weight on my back, because if I'm staying in refugios, then I don't need to worry about carrying a tent or a sleeping bag, right? I just need to have my camera, my food, and potentially a change of clothes. But sometimes you can't even afford that luxury. But if
Maybe
I'm
if you
camping,
m-
if I'm
maybe if you're
camping,
maybe if you're in Malta, you have a car and you can track a little bit, not like if
and
you're
that's the
abroad.
case. So, for example, when we spend the night at Brahat al Mer, for example,
Mhm.
it's a 2.5 kilometer trek, and you still have to carry a tent and water and food and whatever. That's fine. So basically, the way I've done it very systematically. So in its most simple form, I can carry my Z7 II, my 14 to 24, and my 24 to 200. And with just that one small body and two lenses, I've got everything from 14 all the way to 200 covered.
Much better to go light too.
Exactly. It's not just about lightness, though. It's also about size.
Yeah.
So because the mirrorless lenses are so much smaller, it leaves more space in your bag for other
Your
stuff.
bag, yeah.
I've been at times where I had so much stuff hanging off my bag that I could barely walk through a door with it. But obviously, with smaller equipment, you can fit more inside of it.
Okay. And
The tripod.
do you have always someone to help you?
No, I go alone. As in,
You go
if I
alone.
go with someone, it's for company rather
All
than.
right. All right.
I don't have a porter to carry my bag.
Yeah. Okay, Sam, thanks. Sam,
No
thank you
worries.
very much.
If you have any questions, just reach out, Tony. I'm always happy to
Thank
discuss
you.
gear.
Thank you.
As you can
You
see, I
have,
love gear.
I'm gonna stay, but I take this opportunity to wish you a good evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What I can say from my end is that I tried and tested the workshops done by Sam. This is not an advert. This is straight from the heart because it's really, and not because Sam is my friend. It's because it's the pure truth. They've got workshops that are really, really planned to the detail. These people are professionals. They know the site to the stone. And I'm not joking. Those who really join their workshops, okay, they know the place well. So you're safe with them. We did the Maestral, I did the Maestral last year. It was a difficult track for me personally because I'm not fit and because it was my first time doing such a trek like Maestral, but it was incredibly enjoyable once we reached, especially the Girnas. And I can tell you for those who are interested, do the Maestral trek. There's still places because it's really good. And these people know the place to the detail. So they tell you even where to step. There's a stone over there that's coming, that's detail. That's detail. They know the place well. And they take you to spots. It was really, really good. So these workshops, besides, they show you what to do, they show you the equipment, you get the time to shoot yourself, okay? This is, I'm telling you, you have to experience this because it's not an advert, it is really honest. If I had a video, I would have shared that experience, but obviously it was dark, it was late, we had quite a long trek. For me, it was long. Maybe for other people who are experienced in landscapes, like, for example, my friend Alexander Kutayar, who's used to doing these, it's not that difficult for him doing these. But for me, it was a bit difficult doing that trek. But it was really rewarding, really, really rewarding. Well done, Sam, for sharing this valuable information with us, and it's all free. I mean, thank you. It was really, as usual, and incredibly interesting. I will obviously, this is a recorded webinar, and I will get to see it over and over again because we shared really good tips, especially when it comes to gear. And also those tips where to shoot and not to shoot and how and anything. I mean,
Thank you, Vince, and thank you for your feedback on the workshops. Like I said at the beginning, if I describe myself one way, it's obsessed with quality. So I don't do anything in half measures. If I do anything, it's going to be
yes.
first class. And just to answer a quick question from Diego on work. So there are the workshops, which are weekend workshops like Comino and Gozo, where we obviously sleep there. But a normal Astro workshop is usually 4.5, 5 hours, where we go out after sunset and return by midnight, 1 in the morning, for example.
And you'll be safe. You'll be safe because, as I told you, it's not just a place that they choose. These are researched. The place they've been there many times. The places that they take you, okay, and they do the research and they give you, you know, when you're there, they show you different types of shots that you can take. Listen, from here, from there. I mean, from Maestral, we got, I can say safely, I can say, which is too much when you're shooting Milky Way, but practically we had 5 or 6 different shots. 5 or 6 different shots when we were there, apart from the beautiful scenery that you get when you arrive near the Girnas. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's Russell Wash. Is it good, Sam? I'm saying it
That's
right?
correct, yes.
Russell Wash. I remember correctly. But anyway, I don't know
It impressed
anymore.
you, clearly.
Sorry?
It's left you with memories, that's for sure.
Yes, it's left me with memories, and I still have photos that I need to show you before, obviously, publish them because I need to show them to you. Besides, we had also in our workshop, we had also the part that they show you how to edit the photos, and that was really interesting. And they give you also the recorded video so that you can keep it. These are really, as Sam said, quality. They give you quality. There is a basic question from Karn. It's interesting, Karn. I don't know about this. Maybe Sam could. He's saying, does Earth turn anti-clockwise? Does the Earth turns anti-clockwise? He's asking.
I have never stopped to think about that or come across it. I would assume that because the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, that it is clockwise, but that's a really good question. I'm curious and I want to find out.
Alexander is saying, it depends from where you are. I'm going to open his mic because Alexander is a landscape photographer.
It
And
wouldn't make a difference where you are. The rotation is the rotation. The Earth spins on its axis. The rotation wouldn't change if you're in one place or the other.
Okay, but if you are on top, you see it rotating one way. If you are on the south of the Earth, you see it rotating the other way.
But that's your perception of it. The Earth is still rotating in the same direction. It's not changing direction because you're in a different place.
Okay.
Well, a very interesting question, Karna. Very interesting. I don't know how to answer that myself.
Yes, I know. Because the sun is the same direction, no?
What was that, sorry?
usually it's from east to west because the sun always comes up from the same direction and goes down from the same direction. So we are rotating, but we are rotating on two axes because the Earth rotates on itself. And besides that, it's also rotating with the sun. So we have two rotations.
Yeah, so there's the difference. There's rotating on its axis, and then there's rotating around the sun, as in it's an orbit.
We have two rotations. So I'm saying.
Guys, Tony Azzopardi, he googled it and he says that it seems to be anti-clockwise. And Joseph Mesut, he's saying that the Earth also rotates on its axis in an anti-clockwise. So I guess you were right, Connie.
Definitely, obviously, really interesting fact. I never thought of it, so thank you,
It's
Carl.
really interesting about that. Well, thank you, Sam, once again. Thank you on behalf of all of the members here, all of the participants, the Malta Photographic Society, the committee, and everyone. Thank you for sharing this knowledge with us. And this is not just the end. I mean, I'm sure that we will be seeing much of you more in the coming future to share with us more presentations and interesting talks. And obviously, I want to wish you luck in your webinars, in your workshops, sorry, and in your seminars that you do regarding landscape photography.
Thank you, Vince. Appreciate it.
Sorry.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Sam.
If anyone has any questions, always just reach out. I'm always happy to talk
Yes.
photography, gear, whatever. Just reach out.
Yes, and Sam also has a site. Stephen shared the links for Sam's site. You can also subscribe, and he will send you a periodic. I'm a member of Sam's site, and I receive periodic newsletters, and you will get to know what Sam is about, and about his workshops, about his adventures, and about his travels. He will give information in these periodic newsletters. Guys, I want to remind you that next week we will be having another interesting webinar from a veteran, an MIPP veteran, Mr. Melvin Mujeya, is going to share with us his experience. Melvin is an experienced photographer and is going to be a really interesting webinar. So we invite you all to join us and be with us next week. As we always tell you, we're going to close now. Have a good week, okay? Try to get to do some photography as well, to enjoy your week, but obviously, as we always tell you, keep safe. Have a nice week, guys, and see you next week. Goodbye.
Thanks, everyone. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.